Obviously, tactical masterpiece tonight. I mean, he really handled it. Does that alleviate any of the criticism? I mean, you've been openly critical of that camp. Does that alleviate any of that criticism, or is that just George St. Pierre?
My criticism of the camp really came from the Marquardt fight. You know, when Marquardt showed up at the press conference and started saying he thought he won the fight, that was really where my criticism came from. And you know, I had heard things in the corner that they were telling their guys. It just didn't make sense to me. But again, that's just my opinion. Who the fuck am I? I'm not the trainer. I'm not. You know what I mean? Right. That's just, as a fight fan, that's my opinion. That's what I give you guys. Tonight, listen, you can say what you. Of course, I said, you know what's going to happen? These guys are going to say he fought a one-eyed guy. He could have took him out. He didn't have the killer instinct. He didn't do this and that. But what he didn't do is he didn't lay on top of him. They didn't wrestle. And when George said, this is what Koscheck said to me yesterday. I saw him at the hotel. He's like, he's never going to stand up to me. There's no way he's going to stand up to me. You know, and George St. Pierre stood up with him tonight. I actually have respect for both guys in the fight. You know, Koscheck could have quit. People talk a lot of shit about him too. He's a cheater, the eye poke, and all this other stuff. I'll tell you what, that doctor gave him the out. He said, "Can you see? Do you want to continue?" Because the doctor wanted to stop that fight in the third round. Koscheck said, "No, I want to fight." So say what you want about him, man. He stayed in there and kept it going with one eye.
On that note, though, he stood in there, but he was totally dominated in that fight. Where does that leave Koscheck in the welterweight division? And is it possible we'll see him fighting a third fight with George?
Leaves Koscheck in a real bad position in the welterweight division unless somebody else beats George St. Pierre. Because George, you know, dominated him twice. So George said it to him at the press conference, and he was right. You know, he would have had to beat him tonight to ever have a chance.
And everybody keeps pushing you for the GSP Anderson fight. And back in the day, it seemed like you didn't want it. Now you're saying, well, that's what the fans want. But GSP rightly says, you know, he'd have to pack on a lot of weight and leave the division behind. So does that mean you said, you know, does that make you hesitant to make that fight to know that this welterweight champ would leave the division?
Well, listen, there's a couple different things that I think. First and foremost, when I was saying that, I honestly believed that Anderson Silva would move up to 205 pounds. You know, he can carry that weight. He's had great fights at that weight, but he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to do it. And why would I tell a guy to move to 205 when he's dominant and hasn't lost since 2006 and never lost in the UFC, right, to move up to 205? And George St. Pierre, listen, say what you want. The guy looks great. He continues to win. He completely dominated tonight. Looked good in the stand-up. Interesting fight. It's an interesting fight.
But Shields gets in there first still.
Shields has the shot. Shields has the shot at the 170-pound title.
Yeah, if Anderson said you could cut lower than 185, would you do a catchweight fight, or would it have to be a title fight?
You know, I heard him say that too. That seems insane to me. But again, who the fuck am I? I'm not his trainer. I don't, you know what I mean? To think that guy that walks around at 210, 215 can make it down to a $182 or a $180, I don't know. It's crazy. But maybe he can do it. The thing is with him, as big as he is, you've never heard these crazy stories about him cutting tons of weight, not being able to make weight, ever. And another thing that people don't give Anderson Silva enough credit for, because I think it just doesn't pop into their heads because he's so talented. This guy is no young guy. You know, what is he, 35, 36 years old now?
Yeah.
I mean, back when Couture was 35 and 36, we were like, holy shit, Couture is still around. He's 35, 36. Anderson Silva's that old, and he's a pound-for-pound best fighter in the world.
But then doesn't another factor come into play? You have quite a few middleweights that have pretty much earned a shot at him, at Anderson, or at least maybe even get a rematch with him. Do those guys, is that something you have to consider as well?
No. This is a guy who's wiped out an entire division. He really has. I mean, Anderson Silva, not only has he wiped out the 85-pound division, he also beat a couple of guys at 205. You know? That's why it's just so, there's this whole debate over pound for pound. Love George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is awesome. Huge superstar and everything else. He lost not too long ago to Matt Serra by knockout. This guy's never lost in the UFC, and he's moved up another weight division and beat two fucking tough guys at that weight. Frankie Edgar has only lost to Gray Maynard in his entire career and just beat BJ Penn twice. And he really doesn't fucking belong at 55. He should be in a lighter weight division. That's what pound for pound means. You know what I mean? I'd put him above Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is incredibly, amazingly talented, but he has not accomplished what Frankie Edgar has.